everybody, Brady from Inner Strength Check here. Just wanted to raise that ahead of today's interview, I'm actually going to be featuring a track from local Geelong brutal death metal band Mortuary Sickness. As part of promoting local and international and Australian music, something that I'd like to do going forward is to feature bands. So if you feel like you would like to have your band's tracks featured on my show, be that a full track or even just letting me cut up things and mash them through as segues or that sort of thing, please do hit me up. If you would like to support local Geelong brutal music, please go check out Mortuary Sickness at mortuarysickness.bandcamp.com. Their latest LP has just been released and it's a certified banger. So without further ado, enjoy the interview, and at the end of the interview, you'll hear the track in question. All right.
Oh, there we go.
There we go. Robot Zoom Lady has announced our entry. Thanks for joining me, Reece. I'm here today with Reece from the mighty trio Diploid from Melbourne, Australia. Welcome to Inner Strength Check, home of all things arts, music, hobbies, and riffs for mental health. So, Reece, going to start off with the most generic question of all, of course. How are things going in the Diploid camp at the moment? Looks like you guys have got, with the release of Denial Defensive, Ahead of Mantra, and a bunch of tour dates, looks like you guys have got a fair bunch going on in the Diploid camp at the moment. So over to you.
Just if the EP comes out on the 1st of July. Pretty excited for that one. And then we head off and do a bunch of dates basically on just the East Coast. I'm just going to pull it up now just so I can remember them all. But it's just
I probably should have those pulled up too, but hey.
I'll just look it up now. But it's I think we're starting our first show is in Wollongong, and it's just sort of each weekend we go do a little leg somewhere. So it's like I think it's like New South Wales, then the next weekend's Queensland, where we get to play Cold Day in Brisbane, which will be really cool to play.
Yeah, that looks like a pretty decent lineup, and I don't know, from my experience living in Queensland, that's a bit of an oxymoron, but yeah.
It's so strange to be playing with 50 Lions. Like I bought one of those CDs when I was like, I don't know, 15 or something, or like whenever it was a teenager.
Yeah. I mean, 50 Lions were one of the first hardcore bands I saw live, and I'm pretty sure I saw them at Byron Bay Youth Centre sometime in early mid-2000s. So same. How does it feel to be? It sounds like you're pretty excited about that one in particular, and were 50 Lions a bit of an influence for you growing up as a teenager?
I mean, not no, I would say like in regards to Diploid, but it was a band that I did really like, and sort of in that era, like when I was in my teens and in sort of like the mid to late 2000, more mid to 2000s, before I sort of came across like the like grind and like hardcore scene, hardcore punk scene. I mean, the music that I could really only see live was metalcore and stuff, which I don't mind that stuff, but it wasn't really my jam. But then hearing 50 Lions, where it was sort of more of like a hardcore punk sort of sound, that was definitely more what I was into. And then through that, I sort of found more of the sort of local, hardcore punks, so bands like Extortion, and there was this old band, they haven't existed for like a decade now, called Cutsick, who are really awesome, really love them. I still got all their releases,
sweet.
And like Straight Jacket Nation as well. They were really like, they're still around now, but I love that band. They're like one of my favorite local like hardcore punk bands.
well, you might hear some fan noise in the background, but that will hopefully keep the interview alive. Anyway,
Mm,
so basically, I was just going through just your trajectory of influences, and I think one of the things that I really like about Diploid as a band, as a fan personally, is your musically.
mm,
There's some other stuff which we'll get into too, but musically for me, I really you guys really struck me from the get-go as having a mix of some pretty disparate genres in a way that it just seemed pretty effortless the way you guys mix a bunch of almost sort of Merciful style noise elements, a bit of
mm,
industrial with more of that punk rock, power violence,
mm.
grind, sludge dynamic.
Yeah.
Um, how did the initial diploid sound come together? Was it more of an organic process for you guys?
Yeah, I mean, like it initially started off as like I wanted to do something that was sort of, yeah, power violency, but also a bit strange in that I was
Okay.
taking influence from emo violence bands, but
Yep.
also
Yep.
was, yeah, heavily into sort of and also crust punk as well. Like I was in a
Yep.
crust punk band, so that and yeah, actually one of the first bands I was in was actually like we mixed a lot of subgenres all together. So I think, and I didn't write any of the music for that band, so I was sort of heavily
Mm.
influenced by the guy who wrote for that band.
Okay.
Um, but
Mm.
also the project did sort of start as just something that me and my friends did, and
Mm.
we didn't take it like super seriously.
Mm.
If you'd asked us when, because we started again when we were in high school as well, so we were
Mm.
um, still sort of just learning everything. Like I am a drummer, like that's the thing I've learned how to do. And then I started Diploid because I wanted to like learn how to play bass. So
Oh yeah.
I've gotten
Nice.
better at bass guitar, but when we started, I was like atrocious. We were all not super great at our instrument, where we've gotten a lot better over the past decade or whatever.
Mm.
Um,
Just making some
yeah,
noise really on the bass then.
and
Mm.
also just like was into lots of different genres of sort of like subgenres of metal and punk and stuff.
Mm.
And yeah, again, it wasn't like we didn't start the band thinking like, oh, what's the audience who will like this, and
Yeah.
we're going to take this to Europe or whatever. It was just like, let's just hang out and like here's some songs I've written just because I was always writing music just because I don't know, I needed shit to do. Um, yeah, so
Feel
yeah, it was
that.
kind of
Yeah.
organic, and again, doing a band with people who were just into lots and lots of different things. Like none of us
Mm.
were specifically like, oh, I only listen to this genre, I only listen to this genre. um yeah, all three of us, would listen to things from like electronic music to noise music to, yeah, sludge, grind, screamo, hardcore punk, um yeah, industrial, like, yeah, it was just sort of, again, it wasn't really like we're thinking of where can we take this. It was just like, oh, I heard this song and I like this section, I've written something similar to it, and I don't know, it just sort of came together
Yeah,
in that
okay.
sense.
So that's interesting that something that started out as a bit of a just get together, scream, make some fucking
Mm,
noise based on our influences. Over time, that's morphed into something that's actually, it's kind of congealed into something cohesive. And it got to
mm.
the point where you were on a label. I believe you guys were originally, I believe most recently, you guys were on Artist Catharsis, but now you're doing the DIY thing. That's correct.
uh well, our first three albums
Mm,
were on Artist Catharsis and
mhm,
Blackwire.
mm, mm,
Um, and our first album as well actually was released by a German label in Germany.
mm.
Sorry, I just realized as I said that.
Das ist
Um,
sehr gut.
yeah. So yeah, yeah, so it's a bit like that. And then our last record, like before Mantra, that's about to come out, was released by a local label here called Heavy Machinery Records.
Ah, yep,
Um,
yep.
and that was a part of like this, because that was during the middle of lockdown. It was a part of this like program that they were doing that was actually sort of funded by the local government. So
Ah, right.
we actually got a lot of financial support, which was very very
Awesome.
nice. But yeah, it meant sort of like that. It didn't have to be an exclusive release, but it meant that like we just sort of worked with them in Australia anyway.
Mm.
But yeah, we haven't worked with Artist Catharsis for a while, but Lachlan, who runs that label, is still like a massive support, like supports us in heaps of different ways. And
Mm.
I'm always chatting with him, asking for advice or just anything like that. It's a really great label as well. Like he definitely because before our first record and before working with him, we just would throw things on the internet. Like we didn't
Mm.
really, you know, lay out a plan of to how to
Yeah.
release a record. It just would go on the internet and maybe a cassette tape or something like that, or just
Yeah.
some CDRs or like we did, yeah, again, we didn't really take it too seriously.
Mm.
Just because like I mean there's heaps of different reasons, but a big reason was we just didn't think anyone really would care. So,
Boy, how wrong you guys were about that, huh?
well, I mean, that's sort of how the band has kept on. Well, it's sort of how the band morphed from just like a little thing that we did,
Yeah.
was because of the support of other people and the reaction that people had to it.
Mm.
Like we always just assumed, like me and Mariam, I think in particular, just always assumed that no one would really give a shit. So
Mm.
when people started to, it encouraged us to keep going and get better, and that's sort of how we've just kept on going, is really the support of people listening to us. It feels like only maybe in the past sort of like year or two where we've sort of tried to like actually push ourselves rather than wait for people to
Yeah.
help us
Mm.
out and things like that. Like because that's how we went to Europe, was Rope or Guillotine, who are a label based in the Netherlands.
Mm.
They like this is actually back in 2019
Mm.
because we were meant to go to Europe in 2020. We even had our
Until
flights booked. Yeah,
that all
and
that happened. Yeah. Yeah.
and we are on like Fluff Fest and stuff. But yeah, the only reason we really did that was because of their encouragement and asking us to come up. Whereas
Wow. Okay.
now we're
Nice.
sort of a bit more trying to like reach out, and because we're trying to sort out the US at the moment,
Mm.
for next year sometime. And
Mm.
we've got a few things sort of in the works at the moment. So hopefully it all comes together because I'd really love to go over to the US.
Awesome. How does it feel, I guess, with that timeline, that progression, especially for you and Mariam as long-term band members, to sort of, do you guys have any sort of pinch yourself, surreal sorts of moments, say on a flight, or you come off the stage in one of your recent European runs and you sort of think, this was just a jam thing to start off with. I just grabbed the bass and went for it. And
Mm.
here we are halfway around the world. Like, has that felt sort of, has there been an element of it feeling surreal, or how's that felt for
Uh,
you guys touring internationally? Because
well,
you've
like,
done Japan as well, right? A few times over the past.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's been a few different times. I think, yeah, the first time ever going to Japan, because when I was like a kid, it was always like, oh, the dream is I'll tour Japan with my band, sort of thinking that that would actually never happen ever.
Yeah.
And now I've now gone a bunch of times to play.
Mm.
Um, so that was a moment, but I think also playing Dark Mofo in 2022.
Oh,
Um,
yeah, for sure.
yeah,
Mm.
that was a pretty crazy one. And also playing Fluff Fest and Extreme when we went to Europe last year, because they're both just like really long running festivals that I used to
Mm.
watch, videos on YouTube of my favorite bands playing at it. Um, so yeah, that was pretty crazy. Like to and like when we played Obscene Extreme, we were, I think it was three bands after Carcass. So like watching Carcass and then to follow playing them
Wow.
was pretty crazy. The
Wow.
joke was
Wow.
that the joke that we kept on saying was like, oh, Carcass opened for us. But no, we got like the last slot of the evening. I think we were on at 2 in the morning, but there was still people there, and people crowd surfing and jumping around and having a good time. So that was,
Oh,
yeah,
I've
pretty
always
crazy.
wanted to do Obscene Extreme, and not just for the lineup, but especially on the strength of it. It just looks like a big fun, just a big fun party vibe. Like it just,
Yeah,
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 yeah.
it sort of has this I don't know if some people will take offense to this, but like it has this vibe of like Gathering of the Juggalos, but for like metalheads and sort of misfits. Like everyone's sort of like well, this is my experience from the one day I was there, but it felt like this sort of like everyone's sort of together and you can kind of be a
Yeah,
bit of a freak, but everyone's having a good time.
yeah, hell yeah.
Um,
That's as the way
and
a good festival should be, really, right?
yeah, and like
Mm.
you can stage dive and stuff. They've got like you're allowed to jump on stage. Like they obviously have, if you're up there for too long, people come along and tell you to get off. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's a sort of open sort of vibe thing. And it's just, yeah, music from, I think they started at 10 in the morning till like 3 in the morning. So it's like a short gap of no grind and noise and then back into
Amazing,
it.
isn't it? Like,
Mm,
just compared to Australian festivals, I mean, we had Soundwave for a bit. Big day
mm,
out, no doubt. We've got good things in download, I guess.
mm. But yeah,
Yeah,
it's a different vibe of like it's a genre specific open air festival. Like
yeah. Mm.
yeah, seeing like I think this year of seeing extreme looks so good. Like I was so jealous that we weren't going this year because it's like
Same.
yeah,
Yeah,
I think it's like Napalm Death are playing and Melt Banana.
yeah.
I think Siege are playing and Drop Dead as well. I can't
Yeah.
remember now off the top of my head, but it was a lot of really, really sick bands.
Oh,
Whereas last year was great as well, but like I only knew a couple of the bands, and then this year coming up, I was like, oh, I'm like such a big fan of so many of these bands. Like I really wish we were playing this year, but hey, still great to play last year.
I think there's a lot of, I feel personally, my kind of take for you guys is that you've actually taken a lot of that ethos, a lot of that DIY ethos, a lot of the focus on being transparent around like your thoughts and feelings around certain social issues, that kind of thing. From
Mm,
my perspective, for a band as heavy as you guys, and especially in comparison to the Australian scene in general, one thing I do notice and appreciate very highly about Diploid, especially from the perspective of a fan and professionally too as a social worker, for me, something that always strikes me as very salient for you guys is the fact that you're wearing your hearts on your sleeve with a number of
mm.
issues, politically, lyrically, that sort of thing.
Mm.
Do you feel like that is, yeah, I guess I'm kind of curious if that's a conscious process or if that's also an organic part of just being in the band for you guys.
Yeah, I mean, it is a little conscious, but
Mm.
I think I mean, now we sort of just play with sort of whoever. But when we
Mm.
started, were sort of involved in like two different scenes, and
Yeah,
one of them was a very like it was like DIY sort of like
yeah.
cross punk, where we'd play a lot of fundraisers, a lot of things with political, like a political message, and
Mm.
like a lot of the bands as well that we like. I mean, me personally, a lot of the bands that I really loved were bands like that would
Yeah, yeah.
sort of have
Mm.
a bit of a political edge to it.
Mm.
Yeah, so I don't know, but like I don't know. Yeah, it's just I don't know. I feel like now it's sort of organic. Like I don't even really even make a conscious thought about it anymore.
Yeah.
Like I don't know. It's just sort of part of the music, I guess, and part of what we do. And just yeah, the scene we came from being the sort of like DIY,
Mm.
yeah, punk crust sort of scene, which
Yeah.
was sort of with those genres, it's kind of just like bred into it, really. Like
Mm. Mm.
so, it's just sort
Mm.
of what we became a part of. Yeah.
Mm. And in terms of I guess the overall contribution, because it just, Diploid to me seems like such an amalgamation, it's not this sort of strictly adhered to routinized thing.
Mm.
In terms of lyrics, do you provide some of the share of duties for lyrics? Because you're pretty busy when you're on stage. You've got pedals, you've got samples, you've got bass, you've got vocals. Interested to hear what kind of your share is with the lyrical themes as well.
I well, the new one, like the mantra that's coming out, Mariam actually wrote all the lyrics for that one.
Okay.
I helped like a teeny bit with the
Mm,
vocal patterns, but not very
mm,
much. Yeah, that was pretty
mm,
all Mariam, really. I just did the
mm,
music, really.
mm,
But previously to that, we've usually shared lyric duties.
mm,
Um, just trying to think.
mm,
Like the last record, I Am Yours, I wrote nearly all the lyrics for that one, I'm pretty sure. Maybe there was
mm.
like maybe a couple things. Yeah, Mariam wrote um like a couple parts for a couple songs.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, usually we just sort of share the lyric duty. But this one, like mantra, I kind of didn't want to write lyrics just because
Yeah.
I felt a bit burnt out for the last two albums.
Yeah, sure.
Because to write lyrics, I tend to like read like a lot of books or
Mm,
like watch documentaries, and I'll sort of take notes down as to
mm,
what I've been reading and stuff or
mm.
watching. But I tend to typically watch and read really grim things, and so it can really affect my mental health. So I
Yeah,
just need to have a
okay.
bit of a break from that.
Yeah,
And so then Mariam took over this one, and it's still very grim. It's just
yeah.
they dealt with that rather than me.
I find it interesting. It's really I think impressive that hearing that a vocalist getting in, sitting down and actually doing kind of almost documentarian style research
Mm,
for lyrics and that sort of thing. And yeah, it's lyrically quite dark. Definitely that, I don't
mm,
think anyone can disagree with that. I do think being placed with art as catharsis is almost it's pretty poignant and pretty relevant. I think, especially in your guys' case, because the vibe I get from listening to the music, yeah, sure, it's aggressive, it's abrasive, but for me, as a millennial, I feel like for my perspective on you guys is you kind of represent a bit of a millennial catharsis. That's sort of the
mm,
way that I would kind of pitch it. If I was to
mm,
elevate and pitch your musical themes, there is a lot of talk about depression and mental health and those sorts of things.
mm.
Do you find that the expression of the lyrics, so being able to play that and perform it, is a little bit more cathartic and a little bit less burnout inducing than the research end of things?
Uh, yeah, I mean, yeah, it is a pretty cathartic thing. I mean, like, yeah, initially sort of starting off, it was just an outlet,
Yeah.
really, like a of just dealing with those sort of things and dealing with
Mm,
not being super happy with everything.
mm,
um,
mm, mm.
uh, but yeah, no, like sort of putting it, pen to paper, making something. I mean, again, it does vary from release to release. Like,
Sure.
one of our albums, Glorify, which was released in 2019, I
Yeah,
believe.
2019 about there. Yeah.
Yeah, like that one for me personally was a very cathartic like release.
Mm,
I didn't write all the lyrics or anything, but that one there was a bit more of like, I mean, everyone still contributed obviously, but that one was definitely a bit more of like my album, I feel.
right. Mm,
Um, and it just meant a lot to me at the time because when I wrote it, I was not do not going so well, so it definitely
yeah.
helped me like keep on
Mm,
going. So I had this project that I could sort of put my heart and soul into at that period of
mm,
time, which I really needed at that point in time.
mm, mm.
Just shit was pretty rough. I did like I won't go into too much detail, but I had to live with my
Sure.
parents again, and it was
Yeah.
just like a very, very rough period of time. So that record in particular. So when I see, because I've seen some people on the internet sort of say like that's their favorite one. And
Mm,
I mean, I do like the newer ones a lot, but that's probably my favorite one as well.
mm-hmm.
Just because, yeah, it's a bit of an expression about what I was going through. And I mean, I try not to write too much like, I try to avoid writing things that are like diary entry. Like, I try to sort of
Yeah.
write about how I'm feeling, but put it in sort of like a different scenario, like, or
Mm-hmm.
make it um, more universal, I guess, rather than just sort of
Mm,
writing about
mm.
particular me, myself, Reece, what's happening with my life.
Sure.
Yeah, but yeah, no, it is a pretty cathartic thing. But yeah, just after the last two records, the lyrics anyway, just yeah, was very burnt out. And
Yeah.
I've started reading again for the like next EP, like not the one that's about to come out, like the next one. We've sort of got it kind of written at the moment. And yeah, I'm sort of back on it now. So being able
Awesome.
to like deal with all that.
Any particular things that you find yourself tending to dive into for that lyrical inspiration in terms
Yeah.
of reading?
Oof. Yeah, I mean, the book I'm reading at the moment is actually I don't want to say the name incorrect.
It's all good.
Uh what's it called? Sorry, it's just I don't it's a school shooting one, but fuck what? It's not
Something around
Sandy Hook.
Columbine?
No, not that I did read that one as well, but that was for a different album. Um, Parkville, I think it is.
Ah,
Parkville.
right. So
It's
some
written by
pretty
this.
mm,
Oh, it's written by the same guy who wrote the Columbine book, Dave Cullen.
wow.
So I'm like halfway through that. Oh, Parklands, not Parkville. Parkville's a not suburb,
Yeah.
suburb in Melbourne. Um, yeah, sweet.
So you sort of intentionally deep dive into some pretty heavy thematic stuff when you're looking for
Yeah,
lyrical inspo. Do you find that, are you finding a little bit that you're a little bit trepidatious about doing it again this time, or do you feel that you're kind of fresh and ready to kind of jump in again?
yeah. No, I think I'm ready to jump in again.
Yeah.
Because yeah, it's been a while, and I didn't put any lyrics down for the last release. So I think
Mm.
and I'm in a much better place nowadays. So it's not like just punishing myself. It's actually like something I'm interested in, and
Yeah.
um,
Okay. Yeah. Do
yeah,
you find that the process of being in Diploid has been outside of just that pure, you're saying previously it was more of a cathartic outlet, and now it's a little bit more of an expressive element, which is good. It's a
mm,
good goal to get to, because I think a lot of people misconstrue metalheads, etc., as perpetually pissed off people, which in my case is mostly true. But
mm,
with heavy music, I don't think people realize that whilst there can be some heavy emotional and musical themes, it's not
mm,
necessarily always born from just pure aggression or depression or sadness.
mm.
Do you find that diploid is then something that kind of is protective of your mental health over time?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I guess so. Like um I guess it sort of has kept me going as a person,
Mm,
really.
mm,
But I know it's sort of a wave thing. Sometimes I feel like it might be the
yeah,
opposite. Um,
sure.
but
Yeah.
then sometimes it's definitely, it definitely helps. I think just
Mm,
being really, at the end of the day, for me personally, it's like just being creative, having my hands busy,
yeah.
having my mind busy on creating something that I enjoy.
Yeah.
Um, and and then if other people seem to enjoy it, which is sort of how we've been able to build up what we've got, that's a bonus for me, really.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I just yeah, that's sort of just how the band sort of came to be, was just trying to be creative, just trying to do projects for the sake of it, and then other people seem to have enjoyed it along the way. So
That's all you can ask for. Hey.
yeah.
Speaking of projects and speaking of band members, so I'm coming to the community questions section, and
Mm.
someone has asked, "What's with the changes of drummers?" Which is a pretty anyway. That's a question that's
uh,
been thrown out. There's been a few changes of drummers over time. Uh,
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Oh yeah, well, we're like we've got drummer number 4 right now, but
Mm,
we're not sure if he's actually going to be in the band permanently, just because he's from Sydney and we're a
yeah.
Melbourne-based band.
Mm,
So he's
mm,
doing our Australia tour with us.
mm,
He's going to play with us when we open with Full of Hell.
mm-hmm.
And then he's going to come to Japan with us in
Awesome.
when we go, which is going to be like, it's still all getting booked at the moment. So I don't want to be like, we're 100% doing it just in case something happens. But
Yeah.
the vast majority of the shows are booked. We've got most of our flights sorted. There's a few other little bits and pieces. I mean, I guess if we've got our flights sorted and a few shows sorted, it's probably going to happen now.
Yeah.
Um, and then after that, we're not too sure, because it's a lot of money to get him down here just to play a
Yeah.
gig. Whereas someone local, and then also like I'm not a very good bass player still. And so I can't do the thing that where people meet up like a few days beforehand and have a few rehearsals, which is what we're doing
Mm,
now. But
mm.
that's just because the songs we're playing, I've been playing them for some of them for years and years and years now. So but it's more when we get into new stuff, it might not be sustainable. But
Mm,
yeah, as for changes of drummers and stuff, so our first drummer was in the band for quite a long time, who is my friend Scott.
mm,
Well, both mine and Mariam's friend Scott, that we went to high school with.
mm,
Still very, very close. See him, all the time. once a week, probably at least minimum.
Mm.
And we've done heaps of different music projects together since and stuff like that.
Mm.
But they yeah, they were kind of just a bit burnt out and
Yeah, fair.
just stuff like that. And we were going pretty hard at the time, like just always trying to tour, always trying to do this stuff. So I think we kind of burned them out.
DIY thing.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
kind of burnt them out a bit. And then
Yeah.
the drummer after that was my friend Dan. Well, our friend Dan, who I actually play in a band with now called Tumor. We're actually playing a show tonight.
Awesome.
And he kind of left because like lockdown had happened.
Yeah.
Well, like COVID had hit.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it just sort of freaked him out a bit. Because yeah, and so he ended up leaving after that. And then not long, it really was quickly afterwards, we got Scarlett in, because Scarlett has been a friend of ours for, like, I used to go see Scarlett's bands when I was like a teenager, because they would sometimes play all age shows. She was in a band called Circuits, which were like a really awesome band. The singer of Circuits is the singer of Canine, TJ. And I'm trying to think of what the other members have done, but they've all done heaps of stuff since.
So it sounds like generally you guys, there's a lot of what I've noticed, which is cool about the Melbourne scene in general, especially more on your end of things, the punk end of things. There's a lot of cross-pollination. And for instance, Dan, he's in the band you're playing in tonight. He's in, I think, Plovers, also Class Trader, is it?
Yeah. So Dan's in both those groups as well. And then he's just joined doing vocals for my other band, Tumor. And I've only been in Tumor since, well, I shouldn't say only now, it's been over a year now, but I joined them in May of last year, originally just to fill in for a gig. And then I just sort of like didn't leave. And they were also just like, hey, you should just keep playing. Yeah. So, there is a lot of that. And like in Melbourne as well, like all the great grindcore bands, they have the same drummer, which is Christoph. He's like he plays in like Internal Rot, ESP Mayhem.
He's a nut. Yeah.
Great.
Like, yeah.
Christoph is like, he's a guy I've known for like since I was a kid as well, because he used to work at Missing Link, which was a record store in the CBD, but they focused a lot on sort of the DIY scene.
Yeah, cool.
Which is sort of how I got into the DIY scene as well. Like a part of it, I was in a crust punk band, but also going to that record store a lot when I was, 14, 15, 16. And they'd sell, and like I didn't have much money, so I couldn't really buy like CDs or LPs, but I could buy like 7 inches and tapes, which are typically the local stuff.
Cool. So I guess, Reece, with the, this is going to be one of the other obvious questions post-lockdown. I mean, I live in regional Vic now. I was in Melbourne through our record-breaking lockdown. And it seems like for yourselves too, like touring has picked up. I'm noticing so many more shows. I'm forever getting invited to XYZ local bill up there. And they seem almost bigger than before. We are kind of experiencing some challenges with things like venue closures, like what happened with the Bendy, rest in peace. But in your sort of general overview as a band, having been entrenched in the Melbourne scene, what's your thoughts on the state of the Melbourne scene at the moment in terms of where it's at, where things are at?
Oh, I mean, there's heaps of people doing heaps of stuff. Like just this week, well, not this week, sorry, like I guess this month, there's like heaps of local bands putting out stuff. Like Religious Observance have their new album coming out. Like actually I think it just came out. It might have came out yesterday. I've only listened to a single track. Then there's like Jazz Tiger as well, who are like an emo sort of band, mates with those guys, and they've got an EP that's I think just come out as well. So heaps of people are dropping stuff. There's shows happening all the time, like all the time. Like even I've been a bit under the weather, so because I got to play this show tonight, I actually stayed in last night. But last night there was 2 different shows going down of like mates bands. Like The World at a Glance played with what are they called? I played with them just the other day as well in New Zealand.
Those guys.
Oh, yeah, really
It'll be
good
in the show
bands.
notes, mate. It'll be in the show notes. It's all good.
Yeah. Um,
Yeah.
and then I think Keratin, who are another like screamo band, had a
Mm,
show on last night, which the guitarist of Tuma is now the guitarist of Keratin as well. So it's a
mm.
bit more of a crossover there. But yeah, it's always happening. Like there's always shows going down. There's always people putting out things. It's pretty hectic. It's
Yeah,
good.
it is. It is. It's
Mm.
full on. It's quite hectic. And um I'm mindful that I'm on the freebie Zoom, so I probably getting towards the end of the interview anyways.
Oh
But
yeah.
one last observation from me, and especially having seen you guys play with ranging from religious observance to like Jill Sarone and things like that.
Mm.
Do you ever sort of notice differences playing between quote unquote scenes in Melbourne? Because one thing I do find about Melbourne is that sometimes people will just prefer going to XYZ genre shows. Like, is there any
Mm.
sort of difference in feel playing across bills for these various genres for you guys, or it's just you're
Um,
comfortable with everything really?
yeah, I mean, I've never really actually thought about it that much.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, like that is definitely a thing. Like some bands stick to the bands they like playing with, which is, what they want to do. But I think us sort of coming with a, bunch of different sounds. Um, and we're also just, again, into lots of different music ourselves, like
Mm,
personally. So we're quite happy to play over like lots of different scenes. And like we sort of came up in sort of like the screamo slash also in like the crust punk scene. Um, yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's a bit hard to tell. It'll be something I'll have to think about. I feel like as these shows are sort of coming up,
that's all right. That can be
being in different
interview.
crowds. Yeah,
That can be interrogation number two further down the track if I haven't
yeah,
skipped you off enough already. I've thrown a few
yeah.
questions at you. Well, Reece, mate, thank you so much for your time today.
Oh, it's all
I do
good.
personally plan on catching up and seeing you guys at one of your upcoming shows for sure. I've actually lurked in the crowd and seen you quite a few times over the
Mm,
years, so I'm looking forward to seeing it again. I'm very much looking forward to hearing Mantra and hearing Mariam's vocal thematic take there,
mm,
and just some interesting new things you guys have got in the mix there too, like having that three vocal attack and things like that.
mm.
So here's my opportunity to send off, and once again, fanboy as a huge Diploid fan. I absolutely, if you're into anything punk or hardcore related or extreme or experimental, highly recommend checking out Diploid. So Reece, thank you very much for your time, mate. And I'm gonna let you go rest up before your show, and I hope the show goes well tonight.
Oh, cheers. Thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm always happy to chat about the bands and the music and whatnot.
Bit of a technical snafu there at the end there with Zoom. Turns out we need a pro account apparently, but we just kept on chatting. That's all good. So, with regards to Diploid, there's quite a lot going on, guys. They have their upcoming tour for the soon-to-be released Mantra EP. You can check out the new single on Spotify and any other major streaming platforms. In terms of their shows, they'll be playing at the 5th of the 7th on Darawal Land, Wollongong at the Servo Food Truck Bar. The 6th of the 7th, they'll be playing at Catagal Wongal Land in Sydney at the Marrickville Bowls Club. 13th of the 7th, you can catch them at Mianjin in Brisbane for the Cold Day in Brisbane Festival. 14th of the 7th, they'll be on Kabi Kabi in Jinnabara Land, which is in Nambour, at Nambour Block Party, which is at Quota Park. That's an all-ages show. On the 19th of the 7th, they'll be playing in Narmland in Melbourne at the Gasso. 27th of the 7th, they'll be playing at Carlton Country in Adelaide at the Hotel Metropolitan. On the 2nd of the 8th, they'll then be returning to Narmland in Melbourne for the Old Bar, before finishing off on the 3rd of the 8th on Bunurong Land, Frankston at Singing Bird Studio. That's also an all-ages show. And an open invitation for myself, if you ever guys feel like playing on Watherong Land, do feel free to come down and check out the Geelong region sometime. I'll certainly be looking forward to one of their upcoming tour dates. You can check out the